It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship and to take this important debate on SEND provision in Kent. And I'd like to start by thanking the member for Folkestone and Hythe for securing this debate and for his opening remarks, and all members who've contributed constructively to this issue. It's not the first time the Minister and I have discussed SEND in this chamber or in this House, and I suspect it won't be the last time. It's a hugely important issue, and as we've heard, every other member in this House has had experience of similar SEND issues, and providing children with special educational needs is one of the most complex issues facing the country today, and all of our inboxes are inundated with SEND issues, and especially from parents who need our support. As I discuss SEND in Kent in depth, I want to put on record my concerns about the current state of Kent County Council and the way that it's being run, because of course now that it is under Reform's control, it is clearly a blueprint for what happens wherever Reform is in charge. And we shouldn't forget, of course, there were senior members of Reform UK who have claimed that SEND is being hijacked by parents who are abusing the system. And as I've said before in this chamber, I think it's hugely disrespectful, and I believe apologies are necessary. Issues like SEND are of profound concern for all of our constituents, and these kind of remarks are far from serious and suggest there is no real thinking going on by Reform about how to deal with one of modern Britain's most important issues. In Kent and Kent County Council, they are yet to set out a clear plan for meeting residents' needs, and this has been the case since Reform took over in 2025. And families are understandably anxious when the council is failing to provide certainty on vital services, and clearly we should take this with serious focus, because this kind of pattern could well be replicated right across the country if Reform are able to take charge in different or more councils. These patterns are clearly being replicated in other Reform-run councils already. Close to my constituency of Meriden and Solihull East, the Reform leader of Warwickshire County Council, for example, has recently declared an emergency in relation to SEND funding too. But I do worry about their approach to education, because, for example, recently the council leader there even suggested that children as young as 8 have to walk over 5 miles to school. And clearly this is not a serious way of looking at our approach to education or cutting costs, if that is what the intention is. And of course, in many campaigns last year, we heard from Reform about how they wanted to cut council tax. And as has already been said, they've now discovered what we already knew, that there is huge amounts of expenditure that is spent on special educational needs, and so it has not yet been clear. There is no credible plan as how they would cut that council tax. In fact, many council tax rises in Reform-led councils are being touted at around 10%. So that is clearly something we should focus on and certainly hold them to account. In fact, the member for Folkestone and Hythe alluded to this fact. In fact, I think he explicitly said that they'll be facing higher taxes. It is no secret, as has already been pointed out today, many local authorities, like Kent, have faced significant pressures in meeting rising SEND needs. And to put it into perspective, Kent spends more on SEND than the England and South East averages, and more than the 10 nearest comparable councils. In 2021-2022, SEND spending pressures had resulted in a £97 million overspend. And we actually recognise the seriousness of this challenge in government, not just for Kent but across the board, which is why the safety valve programme was introduced to ensure councils were not left to face this crisis alone. And in Kent, that programme had proven and given great progress, and it shows that when the DfE and local authorities can work together, it can do so. The agreement with the previous Conservative-led Kent County Council was backed by £140 million from the Department of Education and £82 million from the Council, and it set out a longer-term plan to expand specialist provision, strengthen mainstream support, review EHCP processes, and improve preparation for adulthood. And under the Conservatives, Kent did submit the required monitoring reports, the Department accepted them, and every scheduled payment had been released. And that does show that Kent County Council was starting to deliver on its side of the agreement, in clearly what are some challenging circumstances. And I thought the honourable member would go on and intervene.
Way on that point. When the safety valve scheme was put in place under the previous Conservative government, did the Conservative government at the time have a plan for how that money would be paid for? It's essentially a kind of a blank cheque a credit card that will be paid for another day. Did the government at the time have a plan for how that was going to be paid for?
I thank the member for that. And I will say I wasn't in the education portfolio at that time. So while my remarks on that would be limited, clearly what we can both agree on is that the system is under great strain. It was under great strain. It is no secret, and that's why I understand that. But that's exactly why I've said previously in this chamber, actually, that it does require a cross-party solution. We are all going to have to work together, because those challenges that we faced are certainly going to be faced by the Reform Council, but also this Labour government, and I'm sure we will be working there. But I think she can also recognise that these were challenging circumstances, and there was government money put forward. But I do want to ask the Minister, in that same vein as the Honourable Member put to me, can she provide any clarity on what the government are going to do to ensure that local authorities do remain solvent and are not forced into Section 114 notices as they look at SEND reform? Will the government extend the statutory override, which is due to expire in 2026, to give councils certainty? And as progress happens in the SEND field, there is clearly some real concern around some of the delivery of special free schools. One that I would highlight are the special free schools in Swanley and Whitstable. Families were promised places in this, and it's clear to us from Kent County Council's response to the Shadow Secretary of State for Education when she made a recent inquiry that the hold-up lies with the Department for Education. And so if we are going to support children with SEND, and we say, and the government says it's a priority, why is the government not acting on this? And I would just add, while I'm at in my position here, we have a similar instance in Solihull Borough as well, which I'm being told is a hold-up at DfE. So can the Minister give a cast-iron guarantee that Swanley School will open by 2027? And is she in a position today to issue a clear timetable on that? Or if not, I'm more than happy for her to write to me, and she'll know that I certainly will write to her asking the question. I will chase answers on them. But I would say to her, of course, those promises were made to the children, to these children and their families, so anything short of that would be a betrayal. In Kent and in local authorities across the country, the issue of SEND continues to cause deep stress and deep anxiety. We know in Kent, for example, this demand for SEND provision is rising. It's been rising, especially in the post-COVID world, and many families are already facing long delays. And so parents are understandably anxious about the proposed changes that might affect their children. The Minister, I know, knows this because her very first outing actually was exactly in the SEND debate. It was a highly attended SEND debate. In Kent, according to official Department for Education data, there are 54,497 pupils with SEND. This is including EHCP and non-EHCP special education needs, and over 6,600 of them are pupils in the independent sector. That means 10.8% of SEND pupils in Kent are in independent schools. And she'll know, the Minister will know, I've been very vocal on the Education Secretary's vindictive decision to impose an education tax on our constituents. Has the Minister now considered the consequences that has had on SEND pupils who are being forced to leave the independent sector if independent schools are forced to close down? I hope she's got some data on that. It's also really important, it's already been made by, I think, the Honourable Member from Ashford, that parents don't feel blindsided, and the communication is really important as they come forward with plans, but also the concern around scrapping EHCPs. These are not just legal documents, they are lifelines, they provide tailored support, and they set out binding commitments from schools, health services and care providers. 60% of children with an EHCP are in England and mainstream schools, yet ministers yet fail to clarify whether they will receive full support under those reforms. This is really, really important. I encourage the Minister to answer that. And unfortunately, those anxieties have been further exacerbated by the delay in the SEND White Paper, which has now been pushed to the new year. SEND is not a new problem. We know that. We're raising debates and having PQs on this. So can the Minister today confirm a specific date when the school's White Paper will be published? And does she have any update on the future of EHCPs and how SEND will be provided for in the future? So, as I said, parents and students in Kent deserve answers. They're clearly not getting leadership from the Reform-led Council. I ask the Minister to commit to changing course and commit her government and give clarity to parents, which they absolutely deserve.